Hello, NAFI members and flight instructors. This is John Niehaus, Director of Program Development for the National Association of Flight Instructors. I'd like to welcome you to another episode to the NAFI More Right Rudder podcast, the podcast for flight instructors on the go. Now, today's a special episode because I have a guest, a new friend of mine, somebody who, when she volunteered for a briefing room episode, she didn't realize that I was going to get her to do more. Elizabeth Vulgamore, NAFI member, flight instructor, and teacher extraordinaire. I'm so glad to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be a member of NAFI and all the good things that you do for the industry. So thank you.
Anyways, after the briefing room episode was over, you and I got to talking about an idea that you'd been thinking about for a while. And I thought that this would be a great opportunity for us to sort of share with the world as the idea starts to fully form, and maybe we can even ask the instructor Hive Mind for some help. So, Elizabeth, what's your idea, and what are you doing with it?
I've been working on a project for personal minimums for students specifically. I see a lot of times. In students, I'll talk about students first, and then I'll also talk about like somebody that's possibly coming to me for a biennial flight review. So I think as instructors, we have this huge opportunity to develop a culture of safety, implementing risk management tools specifically. And oftentimes I know that as the student progresses into their flight training, their risk assessment starts to become less on us as instructors and more on them as individuals and as pilot in command. So my thought is just talking with you, John, about your FRAT form and what you use for flight safety and flight assessment. Implementing something like that into the flight training atmosphere.
Yeah, and for those that don't know, FRAT stands for Flight Risk Analysis Tool, and we use it in my other world, the 135 world, and even a little bit in the 121 world, where the way it works is you think about the different things that are going on for the day, right? How much sleep you got, when your last recurrent training was, how long is your day going to be, what kind of terrain or weather are you going to be dealing with, and all of that adds up to a score that helps you determine a go no go decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what exactly do you envision that to be in the flight training or even in the just sort of part 61 environment?
So what I'm really looking for is to develop either an app or an actual paper form for right now. Ideally, it would be an app that would include known risks, some of our risks that we know that exist, and then also adding in pilot variables. So when we talk about variables, we're talking recency, currency, and comfort level. So the comfort level is huge to me because I have my own comfort levels. Have I flown within 90 days, or how many hours have I flown? How comfortable do I feel in airspace or terrain? How comfortable am I in emergency situations? So I even evaluate myself on these same things. And what I'm really hoping to develop is something standardized enough that I can use it from hour 0 until basically your entire career. So with that being said, it would often change. Your comfort level will change based on recency, currency, possible training that you've received. And as you build hours, all of these things kind of play into that. As a student pilot, hours 0 through 10, you're likely to have a lot more risk associated with the fact that you don't know what you don't know. Mm-hmm. And then as you build hours, as you build skill, your skill envelope will change. So the thought behind it is to have something, a baseline of some kind with a score that would help you decide if the flight that you are going to be taking is a go or no-go situation.
Yeah, I think it's funny. One of the new PDP courses that came out with the last round of 5 was done by our new chairperson, Karen Kalishak. And her course was called Teaching Pilot and Command, basically sort of teaching that attitude from the very beginning. And I think that this plays into that because so often, and you mentioned this the last time we spoke, so often the students will lean on the instructor and say, well, what do you think? Should I go? Should I not go? Is it safe? Is it not safe? And somehow we've got to get them to make that decision. Now, flight instructors have done that for years and years, but it's still hard, right? And we can't always be there for them after they have sort of flown away from the nest. So a tool like this might be a great sort of substitute for sort of the ask it instructor, should I go? And sometimes the hardest thing in the world is deciding not to go. And that's hard for experienced pilots. It's hard for inexperienced pilots. So anything that helps in that decision-making process, I think, is a good thing.
I completely agree. So one of the things that I've noticed is students are similar to snowflakes, right? There's no two that are alike. So what one considers a risk may not be to another. And that has a lot to do with their personality. You know, there's some that are just more willing to take a risk. So with this development, it would help standardize, okay, so these are the known risks again, but then also have those variables just to help them operate. And what I call it is their skill envelope, similar to like operating within center of gravity. Like they understand that they should be in this skill envelope. Are they operating where they're most effective and most safe as a pilot?
And some days you may have a different acceptance of risk than other days. So something like this sort of standardizes that on a day-by-day basis where you may have an attitude shift that you just don't realize.
I completely agree. Yeah, sleep has a lot to do with that. Your length of day. There's so many different factors. Are you on medications? Haven't felt well? There's a lot of variables that come into play when it talks about mitigating risk. And so really what we're looking for is more just some feedback on what it looks like to develop a risk management tool for students 0 to 10 hours. And then we're going to just keep building up to possibly about 200 hours. And then maybe even going further than that. So at the moment, what we're really most passionate about is finding something that we can use through our flight training, starting from the very beginning, showing them what these risks are and how to mitigate, and then also being okay with, I'm not going to fly today.
Yeah, you know, and one of my favorite things working for NAFI is just the idea that we can help instructors like you work on your ideas, because we can't do everything, but our instructors are amazing and you guys do awesome things. And so if there's even small ways that we can contribute towards making your ideas successful, that's something that we really want to do. And so, like I said before, I like to sort of tap into the CFI Hive mind, our listeners, our members, and have them contribute to things like this. And I think one of the things that you had mentioned to me was the idea of trying to figure out what goes on something like this, because you can't have everything because it becomes too cumbersome and people don't do it. So you're trying to kind of boil the ideas of what would be on here into a very short list. And I know you've got some things already figured out, but you know, we'd like to ask the community, like you mentioned, is there something already out there that people are using that maybe we just don't know about? But additionally, if there is or isn't, as we pursue something like this, what should be included? And if anybody has ideas that's listening, NAFI member or otherwise, we'd love to have you send it to our email address here at nafi@nafinet.org. And I'll make sure that anything that comes to that email inbox gets to Elizabeth so that we can help her pursue this idea, because I think it's definitely worthwhile. And I absolutely commend you for bringing this up and being brave enough to come on a podcast like this to talk about it. I know that's hard.
Well, thank you for having me.
So this is great. And thank you so much for everything. Thank you for doing what you're doing. And again, email us at nafi@nafinet.org. If you're not a member and you'd like to be, feel free to join at NAFINet, NAFINET.org. And we'd love to welcome you to the family. So anyways, Elizabeth, thank you so much. And we'll hopefully be getting you some information soon.
Thank you.